Welcome, and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. During the Q&A session, if you'd like to ask a question, you may press star 1 on your phone. Today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. And now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Ms. Kaneen Reese from the Center for Enterprise Dissemination. You may begin.
Thank you, Andrea. And thank you for joining us today to discuss how to navigate data.census.gov. We've had a few webinars recently as we get closer to releasing the data on American Community Survey 5-year data. We had a Q&A webinar last Thursday, and yesterday there was a 5-year ACS webinar where Tyson Weister walked you through how to access 5-year data on data.census.gov. But in this webinar particularly, we wanted to focus on just those latest build of the site and the new features for when you use the site for your 5-year data, and you'll know how to navigate, and also some tips and tricks on how to get the data you need. Okay, just a quick outline. Go over quickly some background on why we're doing this, this effort, the data that are currently available on the site, what those latest updates are, also some reminders and also some other resources, overcoming some roadblocks that you may experience. Then I'll give a quick live demo, talk a little bit about our microdata analysis system, and then open the line for Q&A. So as a little background, the Census Bureau is investing in this huge shift in how data users access data by streamlining its accessibility. So data users will be able to search for all data and digital content available from the Census Bureau in one place. Right now, we're still building the site, so the platform along with the new data releases are being previewed on data.census.gov. But in the next year or so, we will integrate this new platform with census.gov so that all data will be accessible off the census.gov search, and that's the end goal. So overwhelming feedback from our data user community has told us that people are unable to find the data that they're looking for on census.gov, mostly because our data reside in various tools that have been created to release data in different ways, like in tables or maps or data visualizations or other applications. Our customers tell us that they love the functionality of these tools, but the drawback is that not all data are available in these tools, and that unless you are aware of them, these tools can sometimes be hard to find, and if you don't know what you're looking for, it could be even impossible. So we're working to take the best of these tools and apply that functionality to the platform so that all applicable data can have this functionality all accessible through our search bar. So this will also help efficiencies with one platform, meaning one delivery, and that's reducing resources for dissemination on our end. So finally, this platform does provide greater access to the Census Data API. The Census Application Programming Interface is the underlying tool that delivers the data to data.census.gov, and it allows for greater flexibility with the data, such as single estimates for those data visualizations and dashboards, as well as the traditional forms of tables. And so as we're developing the site, we're developing in 2-month increments while you are actively using the site to get new data that's exclusively released on data.census.gov. So we understand that this may be difficult because it is an ever-changing site, but soon things won't change as much, and we'll finalize that basic functionality and start working on more advanced needs. All of this is possible by the agile process of software development. So we build, then we release for feedback, we gather that feedback, we redefine based on that feedback, and then we build again. And we don't want to be building for several years, then release it to you and have you not like it. So as data.census.gov is improving, we're getting closer and closer to decommissioning American Fact Finder. We ended the new data releases this past summer on that site and are slated for completely turning the site off in spring 2020. We understand that it is not an ideal process, but we want to make sure that you get the input up front and not when everything has been built and finished like things were when we released AFF in 2011. So even though this is a difficult process, we have gotten a lot of positive responses that people really do like having a hand in creating this dissemination system, and we do really appreciate your engagement. So key to keeping, for using this developing site is to know where and when the data are available. So not all of the data are available. We're working to have the data migrate from American Fact Finder over to our new site as we're starting to release new data that would have been released on American Fact Finder. And then we're also working towards getting other sources of data throughout the Census Bureau into our census data API and then eventually released on data.census.gov. But that's definitely more of a long-term goal, but that's the process that we're going through. So it's always a good idea to come and take a look at this chart, and I'll show you at the end where you can find all of our resources just to know what's available and what you'd be looking for. All right. So the latest updates. So we have added more collections of geographies. So those are those one-click geographies to be able to get things like all tracts in a state or maybe all tracts in a county. We've added some of those. We don't have all of them like they were in AFF, but we have the ones that were most requested, and we're still working to get more in. We also now have an ability to change the table ID within the advanced search, and I'll show you how to do that. Also, the ability to print tables, and then an updated layout for reference map view. And then we did some responsive design for table display and mobile devices. And finally, we added descriptions on column headers, but for select data sets, those data sets have to be delivered, the metadata has to be delivered originally with it. So it's just a few right now that have that. So to break down just a little bit more, so there's more collections of geographies that were added. Here's the list. The first ones are the ones that we've already had on the site, like all states in the United States, all counties by all states, those types of things. But the things that we've added have been bolded that we've added since October of this year. So those are things like we've added all zip code tabulation areas, those ZICTAs in the U.S. We've added the 116th Congress that was missing for within states as well as the United States. We've added the state legislative districts for the upper chamber and also for the lower chamber within the state. All county subdivisions within state and county. Urban areas within the United States. We've done a micropolitan statistical areas within the United States. Also, the big one was that we've heard the most requests for was all census tracts within states and also within county. All school districts from elementary, secondary, and also unified within the state. And then all block groups within counties and tracts. And then the combined statistical areas within the United States. And finally, we've added the public use microdata geographic areas that we call PUMAs within the United States and for all states. So just a quick kind of how-to, you would access these all one-click kind of collections of geographies is to go through our advanced search, go to the geography in the first filter panel, select track, go to Montana. We chose Gallatin County, Montana, and then we selected all census tracts within Gallatin County, Montana, and then click search. And then we went through a topic. We did educational attainment and all those census tracts, so we chose that. We went and kind of to fully qualify everything, we did the year for 2017, and then we chose the 5-year detailed estimates and click search. You don't have to be that complete with your searches, but you always can be if you kind of know what you're looking for. And then it pulled up this B15001, sex by age by educational attainment for the population 18 years and over. All right, so we'll show that a little bit more of those later, but wanted to make sure that y'all have the full list of what's available. The next are the ability to change table ID within the advanced search. So this is something that we have heard quite a bit about, especially from our heavier data users that are used to going in and specifically searching for one table ID. And then they would go in and get maybe all of their geographies, and then they would go and change the table ID. But since right now our search, our individual single search and our advanced search aren't connected, we're working on unifying them. But right now they're disjointed. Because of that, then it would clear everything that you've done, and people would have to go back in. So one way that we've done that is to add a single text, a text line or bar in the advanced search, and it allows you to put in a table ID. Then from there you can choose your geographies. And then once you get the table, you can go back into the advanced search, put in a new table. In this case, we put DPO3, and then click search, and it keeps the Bozeman City, Montana that we had put in, and just changes the table ID. All right, so the next one is the ability to print tables. So the tables that we have are very, very big. As if anybody's been using our tables from American Fact Finder, they are the same. It's just in a different kind of look and feel on our interface. So with that, we have lots of different columns, but we know that we need to be able to print some things out. So we've added a Control-P option to produce a printable table. This is by no means our final work towards print, but we wanted to be able to give you something so that you will be able to print some tables that you might be using as we kind of work towards finding some long-term software that we could use that allows for bigger tables. Most of these require to go in and not just to print, but you can go ahead and change the layout to landscape and gives you a little bit more real estate for those columns. And you can also go into the more settings, and hopefully it'll hit most of the needs that you would have for print. And this goes in to show you a little bit more about the scale, printing, headers and footers, that type of thing. You can also do a scale of kind of a none, or excuse me, a margins of none. Some of those things might help widen it a little bit more. All right, so the next one is an updated layout for reference map view. So what this is this is showing the zip code tabulation area and the selection map. So one of our data providers needs this for their data users. Go in, our SAPI program, the Small Area Income and Poverty Estimates program, they allow school districts to go in and verify their boundaries. This functionality allows this to happen where they can drill down and find additional information. So we're just using an example of the census tracts in Gallatin County, Montana, through the map so that you can go in, choose census tract, and kind of drill down a little bit, and then you can start to see some of those distinguishing characteristics like individual streets, highways, that type of thing that could help you approve a boundary or know where those boundaries specifically are. And then from here, showing you how to do a selection. You can gather several at once and be able to kind of work the mapping function that way. All right, so the next thing we have is a responsive design for table display and mobile devices. So we've worked on some improvements on our responsive design for mobile devices. Unfortunately, like we were talking about, a lot of our tables are very, very large, and it's a little difficult to display on a portable device, but we have worked for some ways so that things are a little bit easier to view viewing the tables as well as the advanced filters, different ways that you could see the table notes, and as well as seeing the table itself, even though it has most likely has quite a few columns in it. And then also you can use it as a landscape format. All right, and then the final thing that we wanted to give you an update on was the description of the column headers on select data sets. So just explaining a little bit more about what this is that some of our surveys and programs have detailed descriptions to inform the data user about what exactly that header or that information means. Using the 2017 economic census table, that's an example of it that's been put in there. Again, like I mentioned before, not all of our tables have this metadata included from our data providers, but that it's the fact that the functionality is available, and if needed, other data providers could start using that as well. All right. So just some basic reminders and other resources we wanted to cover. Not everybody tunes in every couple of months to hear our updates, so just some quick reminders about how you use the site. Some of our quick wins to use the single search box on the landing page and at the top of the individual pages. So if you type in a table ID and a geography like SO801 Bozeman, Montana, it's a great way to start your search. You can, if you're not familiar with your table IDs, you could type in a topic like we have commuting for Bozeman, Montana. So those are some quick, easy ways to kind of jump in. You can always use the advanced search as well and use more of a filtering experience. Customizing tables, wanted to show you when you look in the table display, you're able to click on the product and you can choose between, if it's an American Community Survey table, you can use a 1 or a 5 year. You can also change the year. And then it also gives you some of these icons available that you can use to customize your table. So a few things, you can add the geographies, you can look at the table notes that the data providers have put together on the specifics of that data, as well as things like if you wanted to transpose the table or hide or filter, those types of things. We also have a few downloading options. One is for a CSV flat file. So that's the file that you would get on the download buttons that's provided in the table display. So above the table, list of tables on the left, it says filter, and then it has a download. You select the download button. You can choose even multiple tables and click download selected. And then from there, you can choose if you wanted multiple years, or even for this example, it's BO8303. So that's a ACS table. You could choose a 1 or 5 year or both. And then from there, you would download it, and it would bring up a flat file with 1 geography per line and the estimates in each column. Now, not everybody is interested in having kind of a machine-readable file like this flat file. Some people are more interested in having something in an Excel table that they can, that looks a little bit more like the table itself. And so we have an option of export to Excel. Again, this isn't kind of like the print function. This isn't our final way of hopefully doing downloads. But this is kind of a workaround that hopefully will get to some of the issues that people maybe are having as we work on our download. So with this, you could just be in the table cell and right-click, export to Excel, and then you open the Excel file from there, and it looks very similar to the table. Finally, you can also copy and paste. We do have quite a large user group that's interested in just maybe pulling a portion of the table into an Excel themselves and then being able to manipulate the data from there. That's also an option. The next thing quickly wanted to remind you of is mapping, the ability to view the table of a mapped estimate. So once you look at something, in this case it's commuting in all states in the United States, and it's showing you those estimates with the legend, and if you go to customize the map and then you click on the view table, you're able to view the table that's produced from the map. So this is very similar to the geographic comparison tables, the GCTs that AFF would release, where it was one estimate across geographies. So this is just another way to do it that allows you to have more control over the estimates and not just the kind of the static tables that were produced. Another thing that people look for, and especially with the for the ACS 5-year data, is being able to use a geocoder or address lookup. So American Fact Finder had one, but the one that we're using is the Census Geocoder Address Lookup that's maintained by our Geography Division. In this, if you go to down here this URL of geocoding.go.census.gov/geocoder, you're able to go through and under Find Geographies, you can put in your address and go to Find. And then from there, you are able to edit your URL for which layers you're looking for. Specifically, by default, the Census Bureau geocoder will show you state, county census tract, and block of the address that you belong to. You can also manually specify many other types of geographies by editing your URL, and that's a little about what that's trying to say. For example, if you want results for a block group, census tract, and county, we also add the ampersand layers equals 8, 10, and 86 to the end of the URL and press enter. So you can look up the codes to enter in your URL for your desired geographic area by referencing the Tiger Web link provided on these slides. And then the results are provided for, again, for the block group, census tract, and county. Find the header for each of these areas and reference the name section of each. And in this example, we see the address is part of the block group 1, census tract 3105.01 in Los Angeles County. And from there, you can take that information and find your county in data.census.gov's advanced search. Excuse me. So for the next is a little bit about overcoming roadblocks. We are a different system than American Fact Finder that you're used to. And so we have some different functionality or features that may be different than how you're used to finding things. And then there are also maybe issues where we just haven't finished and built something. So some of these roadblocks and kind of workarounds we've been talking about, but wanted to just outline a few that we've talked about. So we talked about we do not have all the collections available that AFF had for these geographies. We are working on them, but while we are, there's a few things that you can do. You can use the map feature to drill down in and then individually select estimates from there, or even use the selection rectangle where you can pull several in at once. You can also use the FTP sites or even the Census Data API. At the end of the presentation, I'll show you specifically where some of our resource information is on our census.gov page, where we outline exactly how to pull maybe all data for the ZICTAs and other things that you may be having some problems pulling off the site. We talked a little bit about this already, the Census geographic comparison tables where we don't have those static GCT tables any longer, but we do have the ability to go in and choose those collections of geographies and then be able to kind of put it in a table form. And we talked about going under View Table under the Customized Map view. One other thing that's always a question, we have changed our topics hierarchy. So one of the reasons you may not be able to find things is because the topics have moved and they're different than American Fact Finder. They're also different than census.gov. So census.gov's topics were very, very high level, and American Fact Finders were very, very, very detailed. And so what we needed to do was go through and create new topics that can be used by both systems. So that's some of the changes that we've had. One of the examples here is that an American Fact Finder enabled to find race information. You had a basic race section as well as a more detailed race section, and now they're combined. So for the American Indian and Alaskan Native, you would go to select that under race and ethnicity, then American Indian, and then you can drill down to Navajo, and then you get the code of 244, the Navajo Nation tribal grouping alone. There's other ways of getting those as well through Ancestry and Native and Foreign Born if you're looking at country of birth for some of those iterated tables like in ACS, those SPPs, those SO201s, different ways of finding them. They're not all in one place like they were in American Fact Finder. So please just familiarize yourself with the new topic layout, and obviously if you have any questions, please let us know. I also wanted to mention about download errors. When you go through, and we're definitely still working on our download and our entire system, but some of the things that you could go through, and if your download fails, some things that you can do is to break up your download into smaller pieces. An example, using fewer geographies, maybe fewer tables or vintages in a single download, or even a smaller table, for example, of using the B19013 instead of the subject table S1903. You can also go directly to the FTP site. There's FTP sites on the programs and surveys pages off census.gov, but you can also select them under our More Data option, and it'll take you directly to that site. And then you can also go directly to our data API and pull some data from that way. And again, we'll show you at the end where we have more resources for more information about that. Another question we commonly get are about our shapefile downloads. Some of the additional, and we know that American Fact Finder had some great ways of accessing that data. I think we're trying to go directly through our Tiger line shapefile, the web interface. So this gives you some ways of how you go in and you would download that shapefile, some paths that you could go to, selecting the geographic area and using the FTP site. There is educational brochures on how to download this from the Geo site, and those links are available right there. All right, from here I wanted to go into a live demo, kind of show you some of the things that we've been talking about. And bear with me one second. All right. So a few of the things that we wanted to do, so we talked about going directly, how you would use the single search. So a few things, you could go in and type in income in Bozeman, Montana, click enter. And this takes you to our all results page. It gives you a single estimate. One of the, again, the powers of the API allows you to have single estimates as well as table views and mapping views. and also infographics and other dashboard views. So it allows you to look at some things. You just said income, so we're just offering up a suggestion of median household income since it's one of our #1 indicators of income. So if you're not looking at that, you definitely can look at something else. But since you said something very broad as income, we just offer that up as a selection. And then scrolling down, you could go to tables as well as maps. There's the map of Bozeman, and then scroll way down, and then it connects you with the web pages on census.gov. Now, those web pages on census.gov haven't been fully incorporated into our search. We're actually using the web pages of what's the return of census.gov, but it just gives you a look and feel. Also up here, the navigational tabs up here allow you to switch through. So you can look at this all results page, but then you can also go to tables as well as maps, and it drills down, as well as those web pages like we talked about. So one other thing I wanted to show you quickly is our geographic profile that we have for the nation, state, counties, and places. Places are what we consider to be city, towns, townships. So we're looking at Bozeman, Montana, and it just gives you an overview of some of the estimates that we have available, population number, that median household income, poverty, and then you could scroll down and see some basic estimates. It is important to note that this is from 2017 and not some of the estimates that we have are for 1 year for 2018, and we hope to have this updated in the next several weeks after our 5-year release. But there's just different ways to look at the data, and it's also very similar to, if you're familiar with the Census Bureau's quick facts, this is kind of a visual interpretation of those data. So just wanted to give you a reminder about that. If you go back to our all results page, and then we can jump into the table and look at S1901 that's selected, and then from there you can go in and choose a different table if you would prefer or not. Also, it's important to know, here, if you click on this logo right here, this clears your entire search. So we can go back. We did talk about how people really do use our table IDs to search. So if you're one of those, please, by all means, go in and type in the table that you're interested in, and then put in a geography if you'd like. And then from here, I put S1902, the mean income for Bozeman, so pulled that up. And then wanted to show you a couple of things with this table of what we could do. So from here, talked about download. We can go and download that flat file, and it allows you, by clicking the download, you could click a couple of these tables, or if you're interested in doing, then go to download selected, and you'll see all the data that are available. Since we're looking specifically at Bozeman, Montana, it is only available in the 5-year, but if it was larger, like maybe Montana itself, it would allow you to see 1 year as well as 5-year estimates. We can go from here, choosing a couple of them. If you scroll down here, you'll find the download button. And then from there, it prepares your files, and it'll let you know when it's ready. Give it a second, download now. And pull it up. And then we just pull up the first one just so that you have a look, see what it looks like. And from here, it starts with the GeoID. It gives you the full name, but it is one estimate at a time. There's different Excel files that allow for each different data set that's coming in for the year, as well as those tables. So this is what you're looking for. If you want something that's more machine readable, this is perfect for you. If you're not, let me show you some other options that we have. Looks like I opened that up twice. Hold on. Okay, so you can go in and close your download. Another thing we talked about exporting. So if you get on one of the cells and you right-click and go to Export Table, Export to Excel, and then from there you can open up the Excel file. And then from here, it's fully qualified, so this allows for all the different levels. So that's kind of where these repeating words in the line. But if you scroll over a little bit more, it's something that you're more familiar with the table. So this is an option here. And then let me show you one other thing without closing this. That you can just go through, grab a couple of estimates, and then right-click, copy cells. I'm going to use the same Excel that we had open, and then just, so for some reason I can't open up my, I have to enable editing. Thank you. So from here I can open up another and then paste it in. And there's your estimates from there if you're interested in that. So those are just some options of ways of doing this. We also talked about being able to do Control P. If you just have a, in one of the cells, if you do a Control P, this pulls up your print. And as it's loading and preparing, it starts with all of those table notes that have been put together, and then it comes into the actual table itself. You look at the landscape, you can go into more settings and maybe do some different scales to it, do a custom scale and make it much smaller, and that should allow the full table to come in. Again, some of our tables are quite big, and so this would be very, very hard to do, but it just gives you an option if you're interested or in need for this 5-year release or the last 1 year to be able to print some of your tables. All right, I wanted to show you that. Now I'm going to click over to the advanced search, so I'm going to clear out and go to the advanced search and show you some of the things that we have. Clear our filters that might be there. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to show you was to choose all tracks in Maryland. Geography, go to track. I'm sorry, Montana. Sticking with the same theme of Montana. So we can choose all tracks in Montana right here. And you look down here to the selected filter and you see that it's been populated. And then you scroll up, and I wanted to show you, so you can definitely go and do a topic and choose exactly topic. But I wanted to show you how you can go in and prescribe your table ID if you knew it. So you can go in and put in B19013 and then go down here to your search. Click on your search and pull up the table. And this gives you all of those track numbers for Montana. Now, one of the things that we had an issue with is that people would then go here and would want to change their table ID to maybe B19001, but once they clicked enter, it took all of those geographies that you prescribed through your advanced search out because of the disconnect between our single search and our advanced search. So definitely be mindful of that as you're kind of clicking through maybe tables if you already have, that if you do that, you're going to end up going back to United States. So let's go back in again. And we did the geography for all census tracts in Maryland. And let's see if we can get it to come back up. We can also do Gallatin County, might be a good one to check out. And do all census tracts there. And then we can go to the top and do B 19013 and then do search. And then from there, if you did want to go and change it, you can go, just click on the search bar and just go to advanced search. And then from here, if you wanted to maybe go to B19001 and go to your search. From there, it'll change your table ID but keep your geographies. So we understand that this is not the ideal way of having the search. Like we said, we are in the process of working on unifying the searches. But since we know that this is something that people really want to do, I want to make sure that you're aware that we do have the functionality and being able to switch between the table IDs going that way. Okay, so we can go in and clear the geographies from there. And then I wanted to look at, show you really quick a block group. We can talk about education, or education, I did educational attainment, and then showing you that we can get block groups as well. And that you don't have to know your table IDs. We just want to make sure that people know that it's an option. Go to Gallatin County, choose the all block groups within Gallatin County, Montana, and then search. And from there, it gave us B15002, which is sex by educational attainment for the population 25 years and over. And then it gives you those individual block groups from there. And again, if you wanted to download or customize the table, you could go into the customize, some of the things that we've talked about before, viewing the table notes. You would just click on that customized data. You can go in and then even add additional geographies. If you'd also like to see maybe Gallatin County along with this, and go to Montana. And then you can close it from there, and then it adds the county at the very, very end. Right there, it's added it to the end. Some other things you can do, you could take out the margins of error if you don't want to see those. You can transpose the table. It's a little difficult on a demographic table like the ACS. It's better on things like the economic data since they're more easier for kind of pivots, but you can do it there. You can also go to the more data. The more data allows you, if you click on continue to the site, it actually takes you out of our site and goes to the FTP site for the, if you wanted to pull those summary files from there. Just some different options. And of course, you can always choose the different years if you'd like to from there. One thing that's hard to be mindful of is to get back to maybe that table view. If you don't want to be in this customized view, you can click on this tables right here, and it'll take you back. Keep your selections and take you back to that main that main display page. All right, so from there, I'm going to clear and show you some last few things with the with our mapping updates, and then I'll show you the resource pages, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I'm going to show you all counties in Montana. You can actually just click onto the map right there. And which table? We could do a total population table. Since we're looking at a lot of counties, we could click on even the DPO5 table. If you look, it's kind of sparse because there's not a lot of one-year data for counties in Montana, so we can go ahead and switch that to the 5-year data to see more of the coverage. Then we can also go in and choose our individual estimates. Since we're in that data profile, DPO5, there's lots of different estimates in there. Maybe we want to know the median age. And then from there, we can go in and if we click on Customize, we can view the table, and that gives you that geographic comparison table that I talked about. If you want to see an estimate across maybe all geographies, like in this case, median age across all counties in Montana. Some other things that you can do is, here's how you can kind of change settings, change classification breaks. If this little send feedback is in your way, you're welcome to go ahead and exit out. But change the data classes or classification types. You could change the color palette if you'd prefer that too. And then some other things that you can do. You can clear geos. And then we can go in and choose, gosh, back to the filter map, go to filter. And then let's look at tracks. So we can go to tracks. We're looking at Montana. We're looking at Gallatin County. And then we could choose all tracks. And then we don't have, just as a reminder, we don't have an apply button. So, but it's being applied, so you can go ahead and hide it. But from here, we're interested in going in and seeing, if you drill down in, you'll be, oh, that's the wrong way. If you drill down in, you can start seeing more of the counties that you're looking for. I actually should go out so I could see Gallatin County. There it is. And then scroll up. Then you can scroll down and start seeing some more specifics within the tracts that are available. In Montana, the tracts are much larger than in other areas, but you can see around Bozeman how you see a lot more that from there. And then you can change the estimate. If you're looking for move to plumbing facilities, where we can definitely look at about different estimates from here. We can look at outside state of residence, move from there, anything that you want to do. We could also do a selection where you can move over and you can just pull additional geographies from there and have more things available to pick and choose from. So these are just a few things that might be helpful for you as you go in and look, but we would definitely love your feedback. As you do go in and check these things, we'll give you the information of where you can send emails if you have feedback, but also if you just have questions on how to navigate the site. If you can't find something, please just let us know. All right, so I'm going to hop out, go back to our demo, make sure I don't, and then go to the slideshow. All right, so we did the live demo. And I just quickly wanted to show you our microdata access. You've looked at all of a lot of tabulated tables, but not everybody finds everything they want with the tabulated tables. Most people do find it, but there are some people that would like to have their own tables created with maybe their own variables. All children that are 5 years old within a given area by some characteristic. So what we've done is we've gone in and we've created what we call our microdata analysis system that will be incorporated within data.census.gov. You can actually find the link to it by scrolling on our landing page directly to scrolling down, and it goes to Explore Microdata, or you could directly go to data.census.gov/MDAT, and from there it takes you to the system that's we've originally built it to be a replacement for our data ferret if you used that before. Again, it is in a beta testing site, so we do have a resource page along with it that allows for kind of a walkthrough and a how-to of how to navigate through. But please take a look, and if you do use microdata or are interested in creating your own tables, and please let us know what you think. So here is our how-to guide. This is the guide in the back, and then this shows you a piece of our resource page, how to. All right, we'll talk about our feedback does depend, and how our development goes does depend on the feedback that you send. Send things to cedSci.feedback@census.gov, and then let me have a chance to show you that page really quickly on census.gov. So I gave you the link, but you can also access it by going to Explore Data on census.gov, the Explore Data main. And from there, it gives you two different things. So you're able to go in and have a widget, which is connects to our search, which will take you directly to our search off data.census.gov. But then our resource page is here where it says, what is data.census.gov? And if you scroll down, this is where we put all of our resources. So for one, we have things called frequently asked questions. That's off census.gov's ask.census.gov. But some of the things where you can go directly to it from here, you can find the information you're looking for. Also on this left-hand panel, there is a drop-down for data.census.gov. I mentioned that it's a good idea to always check and see what data are available. So here's a direct way of going and checking it out. From here, there's also several other things that might be helpful for you. So you can find that several different ways. We also have something called data gems that come from our Census Academy, and they're short 3 to 5 minute tutorials on how to access our data tools. This is our Tyson Weister, who does a great job doing these data gems, and they're great ways of kind of jumping in and finding out how to use it. You can also click here and it takes you directly to Census Academy, where it shows you kind of the breadth of all of the data gems that we have about different subjects, as well as the Census Data API. Right here, if you scroll down a little bit more, is our PDFs that we have, the how-tos on the documents on how to use this. We understand that many of you use these data for either school or for your jobs, and we know that going through the site, you may have some hiccups or not be able to find something, so please let us know. Please use the resources, and if you can't find them, let us know, and we can create them for you. But a few things I wanted to highlight. We have some walkthroughs on how to customize a table, some like screen-by-screen shots to be able to help you know how to find things, as well as some of the more technical things, so how to download all congressional districts using the API. We just recently were able to add the 116th Congress, but this is a step-by-step on how to pull the API. And for people who don't use statistical software, where you can just manipulate the URL, we even show you how to move it to a CSV, and then how to even edit it to clean it up a little bit so that you can see it in an easier viewed way. But some of those things are great ways to be able to make sure that you're accessing the data and not losing anything. And if these things don't work for you, please let us know. If we need to, we will package the data and ship it to you, but we want to make sure that all of the resources are at your fingertips. And then I mentioned the Microdata access system, how-to. Here's our how-to from right here. So you access it all in the same place. And at the very bottom, it's a link from our Census Academy of our latest webinars. So hopefully everything that you need right there, and then also a call out to send us any feedback. But like I said, that feedback is really an all-encompassing email box where if you have questions, you are welcome to send them there. And we spend a lot of time making sure that everyone is able to access the data and knows how to use it. Okay, so let me go back to our slide deck really quickly. And wrap up. So if y'all have any questions or feedback, we talked about sending to the cedsci.feedback@census.gov. For the media, please contact our public information office directly at pio@census.gov, and also that number 301-763-3030. And then from there, Andrea, if anyone has any questions, we'd be glad to take those.
Yes, ma'am. And of course, to ask a question, you may press *1 on your phone and record your name clearly when prompted. To withdraw your question, you can press *2. And we'll just allow a moment here for some questions to come into queue.
Yeah, and I'll take that time to tell you about some upcoming webinars. It's really close to the holiday season, so we don't have that many coming, but in January, on January 21st, at 2 p.m., we will have Andy Haight will be presenting Accessing the 2017 Economic Census, the local data on data.census.gov with some tips and tricks. And we're also hopefully soon thereafter, in the next couple months, we'll have something specifically on that microdata analysis system.
All right, and we do have some questions in the queue. Our first question comes from Tom. Your line is now open, Tom.
Hey, thank you. I just want to say this was my first time on one of these webinars, and you guys did a great job. I had no idea it was this powerful, so I just want to thank you for your time today. Look forward to the next one.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate that.
All right. Good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. And we do have some more questions that are queuing up. Just one moment. All right, and our next question comes from Mr. Daniel. Your line is now open. All right, Mr. Daniel Nixon, your line is now open.
Samuel Nixon. Hi.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, sir.
That's all right. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say I appreciate you sharing the information on the webinar. I didn't get to see all of it due to other priorities, but I was going to check and see if there is two questions. One is the way to see the replay of the webinar, and the second is also for those that may not be familiar with the kind of overall offering of the webinars that you make available, is there a way for, do you have something like a sort of a self-paced webinar introduction to your set of webinars that you have available, as well as how to keep track of what's current in terms of the webinars that are coming up? Is there something that I can make available to some of our organizations across the country to be aware of the kinds of information that the webinars make available that's easy to access for those who are not as engaged in the statistical and data part of it, but are very much involved in their community leadership roles around the U.S.?
Well, it's, so our Census Academy is our hub for all of our webinars and our coursework. So I just pulled it up. It's actually census.gov/academy, and that's a great place to find out what data are, what new webinars and materials and tutorials that we have available. So that might be a good starting point for you.
Okay, and then I can make that available to our leadership around the country there. So that would be helpful for those that are involved in community-based organizations around the United States.
Okay, absolutely. And if you have questions, just let us know, okay?
Okay, all right. And the best way to reach is through the just through the regular email that we receive.
Right. There's the cedsci.feedback@census.gov.
What was the first part of it? I didn't get the first part.
CEDSCI, all is one word, dot feedback at census.gov.
Okay. Thank you very much, then. I appreciate the information.
Sure thing.
All right.
All right. And our next question comes from Miss Amy. Your line is now open.
Yeah, hi. This is Amy Bittner in Wyoming, and I had a question, and I did send this to the feedback a while ago, maybe a month or so ago. I've noticed that when I download, for example, an ACS table, like let's say the one that you did earlier, when I download the median household income table, for example, for all states in the U.S., when the table comes up, it's in random order. Like the states aren't in any type of order. Like when I brought it up, Maine was the first state and Montana was the last state listed. And I noticed I did the same thing. I chose all counties in Wyoming. And the table that comes up, it's in random order. You know, it's not by alphabetical, it's not by GeoID. And so I didn't know if that was something, that seems like kind of a big issue, you know. And same thing when I download it to CSV, it's in the same format. It's in, the geographies are listed in a random order. So I was just kind of wondering where you guys were on that.
So we needed to move to switch softwares for our census data API, and the software we originally had prescribed an order, like an alphabetical order, and this new software doesn't. So we're right now trying to figure out the best course of action to go forward, because the most important thing with the API is to make sure that it's quick and the performance doesn't take a hit. And anytime you apply something more to it, like adding an additional sort order, it would cost with performance. So we're trying to work that out. But yes, this is a known issue.
Okay, yeah, and it's also, I downloaded the same table. Like the first time I downloaded it, I thought maybe I did it wrong because Maine was showing up first. So I redid my search, and then the next table, it was in a different random order. So it's not the same every time.
Right.
Like when I did it the next time, Puerto Rico was first in the list when I chose like median household income for all states.
Right, yeah, that you're not going to have the same results. It's always going to give you back the same data, but not in the same order. That's part of prescribing an order to it. And we didn't do that with our last software. It was just done automatically. And so we're trying to figure out, again, a way to do it without causing a hit to performance, because we could easily add something right now, but it would take, the return would take 10 times longer.
Sure, and I guess if it's something, I don't know, I guess if it's something that you guys can't fix, I almost think you need to, I don't know, put some sort of message out or have something, especially for people who are new users, that, you know, your results won't come back in alphabetical order or GeoID order or something like that.
Right. We try to keep that. That's definitely part of most of our documentation. It's not on the site, but it's a good suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. And again, just as another friendly reminder, to ask a question, you can press *1, and please clearly record your name when prompted. And our next question comes from Mr. Drews, I believe. Your line is now open.
Thank you. Appreciate the webinar, Kaneen. You guys have made some great improvements, and I know that being able to change the table number after you've selected your geography once will be well received by the audience. My question for you is this. In the old fact finder, there was kind of a hidden part where you could go in and select what they called a geographic component, meaning that we could get like a demographic profile for all the metro counties in a particular state combined in together and released as one set of estimates. Will the new system allow us to split, say, for example, like the state into its metro and non-metro components like that?
Yes. Right now, I can pull it up on the site if you give me 1 second.
Yes, I'd appreciate the demo.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Okay, so I went to the advanced search and selected states and then put on the toggle right here of show geographic components. And
Right.
It's probably not very intuitive. You have to scroll all the way down until you're no longer with the states, and then it will get you to, which one am I keeping? The in metropolitan or micropolitan statistical area. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that type of thing. There's probably one that says just in metro area only. But rather than scrolling through the list, can you use the little search magnifying glass to, get closer to your state of interest rather than alphabetical? Or is that not you just have to scroll through?
I can try. I'm not sure. But let's, Alabama. Okay, so when you scroll into Alabama, if you just type in Alabama, then it gives you the other, the geo components associated with it.
Okay, perfect. That's what I needed, and we'll be using it next week when that ACS data comes out. So thanks.
Okay, good. Let us know if you have additional questions.
All right. And our next question comes from Aaron. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you for the webinar. It's really great. My quick question is, with the American Fact Finder, you could save your search as a .aff file. Can you save the searches in the new data.gov as some kind of file like that? Do not have to keep on selecting all the search parameters each time?
You can, and we actually have a link in our FAQ. So if you go to, oh gosh, hold on. So ask.census.gov show you a couple ways to access it. I think there's been an issue. Okay, so but we can get it a couple of ways. 1 second. So hopefully that site's not down, but let's go through our resource page and find it from there. What is data.census.gov? There's our page. And if you go to these frequently asked questions, it doesn't have them there, but at least it's a link to the questions. We're trying to wait for a little toggle that gives you all of them. But if you go here, I think it's how to use the site. And it gives you have to scroll up, how to save my results or my search. So from here, it gives you kind of how to edit your URL to get those things. So you might want to take a look and see if this hits what you were looking for.
That's perfect. Thanks so much.
Okay, great. Yeah, and if you're just on a table and if you just want to bookmark stuff, you can go ahead and like copy and paste the URL. But this allows you. These are the more specific to how to kind of save that search. But good. I'm glad this. Hopefully this helps.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
All right. And our next question comes from Michael. Your line is now open.
Well, good afternoon. Michael Cardwell here with the Corn Alternate Nation. I see in the live demo that you mentioned places or cities, towns, etc. My question is regarding native sovereign nations. For example, the Corn Alternate Nation is one census tract. I would think of many tribes would be the same. And I'm trying to scroll down to see what I actually wrote here online here. Would you be able to pull the information that you demoed using that census tract, or just typing in the name of the native sovereign nation?
Okay, so let me see if we can figure out what specifically we're talking about. So under geography, if we scroll down to, you're looking at American Indian area, the Alaska Native area, the Hawaiian homeland. We click on that and then search Quinault, is that what it was?
Yep. Yes.
Reservation. And then from there, you can do a search. This gives you that population. Was this what you were looking for?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because again, I was looking for, my specific area, because we're getting all sorts of questions in regards to the census and why should we do this, blah, blah, blah. And I have to be able to show that, we use this information all the time, etc. So, people don't care about Gallatin, the county, Montana. No, they, are concerned about home.
Okay, that's good. Great. Well, let us know if you have any other questions.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right. And our next question comes from, I believe, if I may mispronounce it, I do apologize. I believe it's Celeste Tate. Your line is now open.
Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. Celeste Tate in New Jersey, and this is actually my very first census webinar, and it's really a comment, so much more. Just want to thank you guys for providing this robust presentation, variously on the usage and the various data sets. Looking forward to being part of the team for 2020. Thank you so much again.
That's great. Thank you so much.
All right. And our next question comes from Degina. Your line is now open.
Hey, I am new to all of this and everything. It just has something to do with us going into doing census, because I'm supposed to be doing the 2020 century thing in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm trying to see if this is all connected to this, or how we're going to be working on the website, putting in people information when we go outside and go to house, or this is something
No,
totally
ma'am. This is once you've collected the data and that's been tabulated and released. So for 2020, we won't see those estimates until 2021. It sounds like you're looking at something for if you're going to be an enumerator or work with the census. I don't know exactly who to direct you to.
Most likely, basically, getting ready to start for training and stuff for census. I hadn't heard any more about what we're supposed to be doing the background, getting our background check and fingerprints done. So I was just thinking that maybe it was part of some of this what y'all was talking about. That's why I entered into it to see what it was.
No, it's not. It's not about anything to do with your jobs. It's just the data releases that we have for our other surveys and other censuses, like our economic census.
Okay.
But hopefully you find that information out soon.
Yeah, because like I said, I just wanted to attend it and see because I didn't know what was really going on. But just the knowledge of this is good knowledge and knowing this and stuff as well too, in the population and stuff of this processing. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. And our next question comes from Wes. Your line is now open. All right. And Mr. West, your line is now open.
Russ?
Oh, my apologies, Mr. Russ.
Yes, I also want to. This is my first time participating in this, and it was actually excellent. I have a more technical question. So if I'm using your APIs and I'm writing code, and I put a range on there, 2016, 2017 as an example, of the information I'm pulling, and you guys update the information, putting 2019 and 1 year and 2025 year, how would I know that? So I would be able to change the way I access the API. Is there a email you send out, or alert, or a trigger, or
like
what?
Like a release schedule or something?
Yes, and when it gets populated, it sends an email to the people who register for it, or whatever.
Right. So if you go to census.gov, and at the bottom of the page is a link to our there's our calendar information, but then there's also here where it says sign up for email updates. If you put in your email and subscribe, it takes you to a different page, and you can choose what emails you want and what's available, like the releases or the tools or that type of thing.
Okay, perfect.
And that's probably the best way to find out the information about the releases. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
All right. And our next question comes from Alan. Your line is now open.
Hi. First off, thank you so much for going and putting this presentation on. My question regards the Census Business Builder, and if you've answered this already, I apologize. In running through a couple of the zip codes that we were testing with, it appeared that I would say maybe about 25% of the data wasn't there. It said NA, and so I want to know if for the version 2.0 of the Census Business Builder, are the tables complete, or are you still in the process of loading data?
So that's not an issue with the load of the data. That's a release, an issue with the like the data quality, what's available at the time, especially when you're looking at small geography. Some of our data are very, very detailed, and that's what happens when you get something like NA, or basically the data were not released for that area.
Okay, is there a way to get access to it, or is it how? Because it's fairly important if you're trying to look from a business perspective at a certain area, say a collection of zip codes, and some of the prime indicators may not be available. I just would like to know, is there a way, if it comes back NA, is there a procedure to go through and say, hey, we really do need this data?
Unfortunately, there's not. The reason it's released is because of a data quality issue, and that could be covered with a lot of different things. It can be, even chalked up to issues with confidentiality of the residents of the area, and those are some of the reasons why we don't release the data at that fine of a level.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And our next question comes from Ms. Kathy. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you. I've got two questions. I believe it was Amy spoke earlier about geographies being out of alphabetical order. I occasionally find where the variables within a download come in out of order. Like if I'm looking at the educational attainment by age, the age groups are kind of scattered back and forth.
Right. That's the same issue.
Mm-hmm. That's just something people should be aware of if they're expecting it to be.
It's something to be aware of. We definitely would like to get it fixed and have it in the order as, as prescribed. We're just trying to work through it and find the best answer.
My other question is regarding saving your searches. I've tried doing that, and I often get a lot of extraneous and kind of unexplained text in the URL, and I'm not sure, what all needs to be changed if I want to put in a different table number or something. I don't know if you can add additional clarification as to what to look
when
for.
you're creating the search, when you're creating your saving search, you get extraneous. What might be helpful is if you could send us an example kind of more detailed, and we could talk about this offline through our feedback@census.gov. That would probably be the best way that we can kind of go through it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
All right. And it appears that there are no further questions in the queue as of right now.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we hope y'all will join us for a webinar in the new year.
All right. And that does conclude today's conference. Thank you so much for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.